Okay, hello. I am just here to do a deck tech, pretty much. But I've started a primer, and I thought it would be good to have like a verbal primer. I have started this on. I'm like on Twitch as we speak, um, so I'm like open for questions. So I'm just gonna throw that there, and it's probably going to keep disappearing because I'm going to keep uh, clicking all over the screen as we go through this. But I'm hoping someone comes along and starts asking questions about this deck. Anyhow, let's just get started with the basics, shall we? This is a Prime Speaker Vannifar deck. Bam, message is gone. And obviously far modern. If you're here for something else, then I'm afraid you'd be disappointed. But yeah, I'll just quickly go over the basics. The basics being the kill. So with Prime Speaker Vannifar out, you can sack any of your one drops, of which there are 9, and fetch Corridor Monitor. Let's arrange this in a way that means we can see the combo a little easier. So you start with a Prime Speaker in play and a one drop, and you sack this this one drop to grab a Corridor Monitor, and the Corridor Monitor untaps the Prime Speaker. You then tap this Prime Speaker, sack the Monitor, and you grab a Renegade Valia. Renegade Valia targets the Monitor untaps the Prime Speaker sacks the Valia, and it gets a Resto Angel. The Goose is dead at this point, the Valia is dead at this point, and the Resto flickers the Corridor Monitor untaps the Prime Speaker, and the Prime Speaker sacks the Resto Angel and grabs the Kiki-Jiki. Kiki-Jiki copies the Corridor Monitor untaps Kiki-Jiki, and so on and so on and so on and so on and so on. So that's it, really simple. You untap the Prime Speaker, you have a one drop, and you win the game. And obviously, if you could do that on turn 2 or 3 every game, you would win. But unfortunately, Prime Speaker has Summoning Sickness, and it's a 4-mana creature, so realistically, it's not going to happen all that often. It'll happen some of the time, but not all the time. So we need to build the deck in a way that that can try to support the Prime Speaker and the plan that we have. So let's just go through some of the cards that we've got here. So I'm going to start by, obviously, we have the combo pieces. You play 4 Prime Speakers because the deck's called Prime Speaker. You play 1 Corridor Monitor because it's a pretty rubbish magic card, and you play 1 Renegade Valia for a similar reason. It's better than Monitor, but it's not a great magic card. And then there's 3 Resto Angels, 2 Kiki-Jikis, so that they all contribute to the combo. So the first thing to point out here is that you do have the backup plan of just like casting some combo pieces and playing Kiki-Jiki. You don't need a Prime Speaker to be able to win. And with Resto Angel and Kiki-Jiki being pretty reasonable to hard cast for a variety of reasons, you can run multiples of these. So, Resto Angel can flicker a creature that's dying to a removal spell. If that creature has a comes into play effect, then even better. Kiki-Jiki could copy creatures, and that's all great. So those are all combo cards. That is my preferred setup, these numbers here. One of the things I said was about, if we could do this on turn 3 every game, then that'd be great. We can't. We can never get Prime Speaker out before turn 3, but if we could cast it on turn 3, it certainly helps. It gives us a turn 4 kill. So I'm currently running 4 Birds of Paradise, 2 Gilded Goose, and 2 Wall of Roots to try and help make that happen. Gilded Goose is a new addition to my list. Some people would run Noble Hierarchs in this slot. I can sort of see an argument for both. Gilded Goose is much more defensive. Hierarch is better at adding mana later into the game, and especially in the mid game. So they've both got pros and cons. You can swap them out as you please, but those cards are there to help make this happen. Outside of that, what else do we have? Well, let's look at the tutors. These are the cards that give us some consistency. So, once upon a time, I guess both of these cards probably need very little explanation. Once upon a time has done a lot for this deck though, because you can run less mana docks, which gives you less bad top decks. So you could also run less lands, which gives you less bad top decks, because if you have Once Upon a Time in your opener, it's usually can class as a land, and if you draw it in the late game, you can still turn it into a threat. So it's just a very good card for this archetype, and it really improves the list. Chord of Calling is a card that works well. You know, if you could get Chord X4 to get a Prime Speaker on end step, you turn off a bunch of sorcery speed interaction that the opponent might have. You also just surprise them sometimes. You know, sometimes you card for 4 and they tapped out. They might have a handful of removal, but they tapped out because they just didn't see card for 4 coming. So these two cards just add some consistency, and card particularly, but also Once Upon a Time they encourage a few toolbox cards as well. So that's what we're kind of moving on to next. Magus of the Moon, Eternal Witness, Deputy Knight, Spellskite. They would class as all toolboxy cards. Spellskite, because of how cheap you can pick it up with cards, so just X2, you could get this as a very early on, and it's a way to protect your key creatures, your Kiki-Jikis, Resto Angels, and Prime Speakers. It also protects some of your Hate Bears later on. And we have a guest. Are you coming up? Are you just going to play with your toys? Okay, you do what you're doing. So there's a baby in the background. But anyway, yeah, Card and Once Upon a Time can help you find a Spellskite or any other creature. Talking of creatures, here's mine. I don't really need to eat that though. You're making this very unprofessional, I'm afraid. But oh well. He has seen chocolate, and that's why he's my friend. That's why he's nodding his head. You can have one chocolate. Is that funny? Right, so we have one happy child. No, we're not. Okay, right. Well, no, I'm not putting cartoons on. We're doing this. You get down. Right, see you later. Where were we? Okay, so card can help you find. Thanks, mate. Creatures, and Spellskite helps protect some of these creatures. So in certain games, Magus of the Moon will just lock up the game, but they might find a removal spell, and Spellskite can just flash in to protect it in a similar way that Resto can. So Spellskite has a lot of uses. It's also very good against Infect and Boggles, which most people already knew anyway. So that's a card that I've been a bit like that on in the past, but currently I'm pretty big fan of it. Certainly, I consider a lot of these as flex slots. Magus of the Moon as well, you know, might be good sometimes and not others. What are you doing? Stop it, child. Right. So other things that we might want to wish for, you know, card up at instant speed. Eternal Witness. Again, it is a bit of a flex slot, but you can card for 3 and pick up Witness and pick up your card. So it's kind of like a free 2-1. It costs you no cards. But what it also does is it adds an extra body that taps to card. So then, let's say you had 3 creatures and 3 mana and you carded for Eternal Witness. You now would have 4 creatures and 3 mana when you untap. And you could card for Resto Angel, which would flicker Eternal Witness, which would pick up Card of Calling and add a body. So you've now got 3 lands, 5 creatures, which conveniently cards up Kiki-Jiki. So you can go from having no cards in hand, rip a card of calling, and granted it takes 3 turns, but 3 turns later you make a Kiki-Jiki resto and kill them. And that's just like a really nice value package to have, specifically in slower metas. It's really good. Witness, like, you know, it's the green Snapcaster Mage or whatever. It's not great in this deck because you're mostly a creature deck, so you don't have a lot of things to pick back up. You know, if you're just playing, let's say you're just playing against Tron, like, what are they doing? Well, you've put nothing in your own graveyard because you have nothing that automatically goes there, and then when they find Kana or Ugin, they just exile everything, and you kind of just scoop and you've lost. So Witness is hit and miss in this deck for sure. Deputy Detention is awesome. It's just a catch-all. It's just its flexibility, and that's the reason it's here. There's not much more to say on that. And Night of Autumn is kind of similar. It's low power level, high utility, so you might want to gain some life against burn, you might need a disenchant, or worst case, you naturally draw it and just make a 4-3. You're never going to card up a 4-3, you just card up something better, something that has more utility. But as a sort of worst case scenario, when you naturally draw it, it's still a decent card. So so that's why that's there. Quick reminder, I'm doing a deck tech, but if people ask questions, I'll answer those questions. So yeah. Another slot that I have here is Giver of Runes. Kind of runs like triple duty in this deck. Protects your creatures. There you go. One more chocolate for the child. No more. No, all gone. So yeah, it protects your key creatures. That's a good thing. Second, it helps you to chump block, so you can like block with a Bird's Paradise, give it protection, and just like gum up the board, which buys you more time to find your combo pieces. And then it also, well, I mean, it taps the card. You don't really tend to want to do that, but you know, it's important that we get creatures on the board early so that we can use the card aggressively. And if we don't use the card, you know, like if you don't have creatures on the board, like turn 1, 2, 3, then card just becomes so clunky and terrible. So having these extra 1-drops is very useful. And then the last good thing about it is with Kiki-Jiki. This is like an absolutely bonkers synergy that you can get, where do you really need to play with that toy? Professionalism is out of the window. I guess it never stops making noise. I don't really know. Let's move that away. Right. Yeah, so with Kiki-Jiki and Giver of Runes, you can tap Kiki-Jiki, target Giver of Runes in response to them trying to remove either of them. So they try and destroy the Giver, for example. Weewood Chucks are good. They are good. Especially if you have a baby child's mind. Which all of us have a little bit of somewhere, I guess. He's having fun anyway. But yeah, so Kiki-Jiki copies Giver of Runes. The copy can then target the original Giver of Runes and give it protection, and then you still have your original Giver of Runes untapped. So like these two together just like gum up the board and blank removal and just pretty awesome, to be honest. When you get those together, you never feel like you can lose. You need the opponent to have like 3 pieces of removal, or like attack you in such a way that you have to block, and then you tap your Giver to try and keep your creature on the board, and then they start using removal. You know, like you just feel so far ahead if you get into that situation. So Giver of Runes is a card that really has improved this list quite a bit. Last thing that I'm currently running is a Stoneforge Mystic package. It's worth noting that like going turn 1 Giver of Runes, turn 2 Stoneforge Mystic's really strong. It also means that you don't fully rely on mana dorks, so that's good. So yeah, these are definitely flex slots. So if you ask me, you know, what can I cut? I want to play some of my own things. Yeah, Giver's just great. It just does so much for like, just takes pressure off the mana dorks. It takes pressure off. It like puts pressure on opponent's removal spells. It's good against aggro. It's basically just bad against Storm and Tron. And even then, like when you have Magus of the Moon against Tron, you're kind of quite happy to see Giver runes. You know, like let's protect my Magus of the Moon, or let's protect my Spellskite against Boggles, or whatever. Like it just does a lot. Does a lot in this deck. Yeah, so where was I? Flex slots for those that want them. Well, these 5 are definite flex slots. I think Eternal Witnesses. I think you want it in the 75. I don't think you need it in the 60. Night of Autumn's another one. Magus of the Moon in the right meta. Spell Sky. I think I'm sort of erring towards one of these being flex, and one of these being flex, one of these being flex. And I think if you cut a card, you would cut a Wall of Roots. You could switch these. I don't consider them flex. You could switch them for Hierarchs, but you still want some mana dorks here, so not particularly flex where you could do a lot. You can maybe cut a Resto if you found some 3 or 4 drops you wanted to add. But personally, I wouldn't go away from those 26. And I like 20 lands. I mean, 14 cards as flex slots is quite a lot, but at the same time, as things currently stand, I wouldn't move too far away from these 35. I think this is the easiest place to sort of tweak for your meta, and this, I guess, and maybe this. Like trimming cards here and there is fine. You could tweak to how you want, but this is the list I was running sort of like 2 days ago, and I'm still quite happy with it. What else was I? I'm like speaking at a million miles an hour, but right, no. Right, you could come and sit with me, but you're not having chocolate, and I know that's what you want. Do you want that? Okay, you're going again. That's nice hanging out. I just wanted to talk about a few flex slots, if I can. By the way, I'm going through my own primer, basically, and just talking through it. So, card choices, let's jump to that. These are kind of the cards that I said were pretty key. We've gone through all them. Some of the flex slots, Stoneforge, the Gilded Goose on Noble Hierarch, Damage News. Okay, so some cards that we haven't seen yet. Voice of Resurgence is just a solid card in the right meta. Read it, like, you'll know whether it's good or not. Charming Prince has a few tricks, like, it's very similar to Spellskite in that you can Codex 2 for Charming Prince and flicker some things to save its life, but you don't get the upside of beating Infect and Boggles, but you do get the upside of occasionally beating Burn with it, or you can tuck a creature to hide it from a Supreme Verdict even, and then its worst case of just Scry 2 is also pretty good. The flip side is that you don't get Infect and Boggles hate. I tend to think that I want this card when I don't have the Gilded Goose, and when I do have the Gilded Goose, I may be less crucial. Or again, if I was to cut the Stoneforge package, which gives you access to life gain in the Battle Skull, I'd maybe want the Charming Prince to help me with the burn matchup. So it's a really flexible card, and it is pretty powerful. It's just I'm not sure if that's a tool we actually need. Some metas we will want that, some we won't. Spellskite, Magus of the Moon we discussed. Eidolon, it's another meta choice. It's kind of like Magus of the Moon. If you were seeing Storm a lot, play it. If not, don't. Or Ad Nauseam or other decks at Living End. There's plenty of decks that play multiple spells, and it's key for them to play multiple spells, and that's where Eidolon in the main is pretty good. Because you still get some splash damage of like stopping a Snapcaster Mage or whatever. It's a pretty reasonable card to get in the main if you want to. Path to Exile. Personally, I prefer just to run out some creatures, but removal is useful, so don't write it off. I don't really feel like I need to discuss any other choices at this point. They don't really fit with the list that I'm discussing here. Same with Eldritch Evolution and some of the Planeswalkers. I don't want to go into the matchups particularly here. What I want to discuss is the okay. So the sideboard is like a living, breathing thing. It changes league by league, um, and none of the cards are fixed at all. Like I could quite happily change these paths for Fiery Justice or Helixes for Fiery Justice or Spell Pierce for Dovi's Veto or Mystical Dispute, or like I could choose to run Obstinate Baloths, or I could choose more Scavenging Oozes. They could end up in the main. Like there's so much of the sideboard that's just always changing. So what I want to discuss instead is about how to play this deck and how you use sort of role assessment to figure out how to sideboard. It's a lot more simple than I made it sound there, but basically this deck can play different roles because of the way that it's constructed, and when you know what your role is, sideboarding becomes a whole lot easier. So I'm just going to give you an example here. So if we were playing against Storm, for example, in that scenario, and you kind of have to take my word for it until you played some matches, but once you play some matches, you'll realise that what I'm saying is correct. But when you tap out for Prime Speaker Vannifar, let's say on turn 3, you had your mana dark and you're going to tap out and play a Prime Speaker Vannifar on turn 3. What will happen is one of two things. They will either play your hand and your Prime Speaker will ping back into your hand and you will have just wasted your turn. Or option 2 is that the Prime Speaker will resolve, the opponent will untap and they will kill you. That will happen 95% of the time that you hardcast a Prime Speaker on turn 3. As a result, it's not really a card you want. But how are you winning the match? So what you actually want to be doing when you're playing against Storm, you want to be a control deck, not a combo deck. And to be a control deck, what you need is stuff like Eidolon, stuff like Garrett Teague, Helixes to take out their Dorks, their Bears, Spell Piercers, Counter Magic, or whatever you've got, but use the tools that you have. Rest in Peace might be one of them. There's a bunch of tools. You can slam in whatever you want into the sideboard, but use your tools that you've got, bring them in, and side out your combo, because your combo isn't very good in this matchup. And that's what you're doing every single time you look at your role assessment. It's not only telling you how to play, it's telling you how to sideboard and how to mulligan at the same time. So if I know by chance that game 1 I'm against Storm and my hand is like birds into Spellsky into Prime Speaker, I'm probably not keeping it. It's probably not going to win. However, there's a chance that a hand with like I don't know, I mean, you look at this list, this deck isn't beating Storm in game 1 anyway, but, you know, a hand with Deputy of Detention, for example, would have some value. A hand that can play the Deputy and then have Resto as a backup would have more value, because you might be able to eat their Barrel Chief, and then when they play a second one, flicker the Deputy and kill one and take the other, you know, that kind of thing. So, you know, hands with Chord of Calling, so you can end step, go get a Prime Speaker, are better than hands that just try and tap out on 3. So but it makes a much bigger impact post board when you look at your hand and it's like, I don't know, I mean, post board you're taking out your Alias, you're taking out your Monitor, you're taking out your Prime Speaker. So then, you know, if your hand is Bird, Wall, Resto, Kiki, you're just hoping to tap out on 4 and kill them. Well, no, you just don't get away with that against Storm. They're too quick and too consistent. So you don't keep that hand. You keep a hand that goes turn 1 Giver of Runes, turn 3 Eidolon, or turn 1 Giver of Runes, turn 2 Spell Pierce. You know, a hand where you can protect the hate bear that you found is very, very strong. A hand that ramps into an endgame really isn't that strong. So make your decisions sideboard based on your role assessment. And what I'm going to do now is just go through the different sort of roles that you might play and when you might play them. So let's give an example. Okay, so red green Valakut, Dredge. Those two are the two that jump out the most of being slightly slower or slightly similar pace to us, and us not having too many other tools where you just want to be a combo deck. So against red green Valakut, you got turn 1 burst, turn 3 prime speaker, turn 4 kill them. On the play that will win every time. On the draw it might not, but you can maybe look after your life total, play tapped lands, whatever else. You just want to race to the combo. And then as an upside, you might have this upside win Magus of the Moon, or upside win Scavenging Ooze, or you might have your Giver of Runes to help protect, or Spellskite to help protect these things. But generally speaking, against Dredge and Valakut, you're just a combo deck. That's all you really care about. And so, as a result, your sort of mediocre beatdown plan and your value plan is just totally wasted. You just don't need it. So you don't need you barely need a Deputy of Detention, but it's nearly always right to leave it in just in case. You don't need Stoneforge, Bat and Sword of Fire and Ice, because you're never going to be winning like that. You're either going to resolve a Magus of the Moon, or you're just going to combo kill. So you don't need these. And so, look for similar cards. If you're not playing Stoneforge and you're playing Voice of Resurgence, well, it falls in the same camp. It's a value card. It's a disruptive element. It's just not very good here. What else? So that's an example of just being full on combo. There's one matchup where you are an aggro deck, and that's against blue-white control. So you very rarely untap with Prime Speaker Vannifar. You might cast it and it gets countered, you might cast it and it gets pathed or bounced or whatever, but it's just so hard to make this guy stick. So it doesn't mean that you shouldn't play it, because it's a must-answer threat, and the more threats that you have that they have to answer puts more pressure on their removal and counter spells. But what you shouldn't probably have are bad top decks. Codan Monitor and Renegade Rallier are bad top decks in this matchup, so you don't want them. You want less mana dorks. Probably Wall of Roots is probably the thing that you don't want, because they're bad top decks. Gilded Goose is a great top deck, and it's not great top deck, it's an okay top deck. Noble Hierarchy is a much better mana dork against blue-white control, because the Exalted Trigger matters. You're an aggro deck, they're the control deck, and you're not aiming to combo. You might occasionally, not even just occasionally, you might quite often accidentally combo against blue-white, but it's because you stretch their removal as far as you can, and then you might just end step a Resto Angel and untap and go, well, this is my best window, I'm going to give it a go. So blue-white control is pretty much the only position where you oh no, why? I mean, this shouldn't be happening on stream. There is a semi-naked baby. Semi-naked, I mean fully naked, but he has a hat. Well, he's not covering his junk with it either, so we'll let him leave. Anyway, where was I? Blue-white control, that's pretty much the only matchup where you're just an aggro deck. But again, think about the way that the games are going to play out. You will try and play an end step a little bit, so Corner Calling, Once Upon a Time, Resto Angel, they're all good. You will occasionally, you do want some ramp in the early game, because getting on the board before they have their counter magic is really useful. And then think about, how many bad top decks are there? Well, Birds of Paradise can block Colonnades, for example, so it might be better than for Wall of Roots. You could argue that Wall of Roots is better because it makes your cards better earlier. So, two sides to that coin. But because of the way the games play out, sideboard accordingly and mulligan accordingly. So that's an example of being an aggro deck. We talked about Storm, where you're a control deck. You are also a control deck against Infect and against Devoted Druid. You are not racing those decks, they're quicker than you. So to work out what role you're in, if their deck is consistently faster than yours, you are the control deck first. If their deck is stopping you from comboing, you are often a mid-range deck or an aggro deck. So against something like Grissix Shadow, 4-colour Shadow, they are fairly disruptive but present a bit of a clock. So you want to try and gum up the board, buy as much time as possible, and then just get across the line some way or another. That might just be attacking with a Resto Angel, or it might just be getting the combo. But realistically, it's a bit of a tempo matchup, and you're just trying to gum up the board, which is kind of what a mid-range deck does. So yeah, sometimes you're mid-range, pretty much Grissix Shadow. Jund, you kind of try and go toe to toe with them with like Stoneforges maybe. So yeah, against Jund you just try to be a bigger Jund deck. Against Grissix Shadow you try to be a mid-range deck but kind of on the back foot a little bit. Against Dredge, Valakut, you're a combo deck again because they're not disruptive. They're not very disruptive. They are slightly disruptive, but they're not very disruptive, and they're not very quick. They go wide, but you can buy yourself time by blocking and whatever else. Or with the Valakut deck, you buy yourself time by just not going to 18 if that's possible. So there's, you have tools to beat those decks. It's just figuring out where the tools are. Against Tron and Amulet, you have a fairly quick kill. You could kill on 4, which isn't bad, especially on the play. It's pretty good. But you also have this like, oops, I win Magus of the Moon and protection with it. So you actually have a couple of different ways of winning the game, and it doesn't involve Stoneforge, Batskull, or Sword of Fire and Ice. What do you want now? Oh, you come for a hug. Okay. Well, watch your head. So, yeah, where was I? So, yeah, against Amulet, sometimes you're kind of a control deck, right? You lock, sort of like a Hate Bears deck where you lock them out with Spellskite Magus of the Moon, or, Lavinia might turn off their Summoner's Packs or something like that. Right, careful. If you're taking part in the video, you need to come and sit and just watch Daddy do his thing, right? So yeah, sometimes I think you're kind of a control deck against Amulet where you're just on the back foot and you're just going to try and stop them making a 6/6 that can kill you. And then sometimes you will just race them. It might just be as simple as Bird, Spellskite, Prime Speaker. Even their fastest hands don't like Spellskite because you can redirect the Slayer Stronghold trigger. So were we a control deck then? Well, kind of. We were disruptive enough to get across the line, but you were mostly a combo deck. So, but the beauty of this deck is that you could sometimes play 2 different roles, and it doesn't really matter how you get across the line, as long as you get across the line. So there's a few decks where I sort of consider us to be combo first, but control if we have to be. Against humans, it's kind of the other way round. We're kind of a control deck. No! Stop smashing the Stop smashing the keyboard, child. Right. Whoa. Right, down you get. Yeah, against humans, for example, you just gum up the board, get as wide as you can, get your Giver of Runes with your Kiki, get your Batterskull chipping in, maybe equip it to a Resto Angel, and, gum up the board as much as you can, because what they're going to do is they're going to Meddling Mage or Prime Speaker, and then they're going to play another Meddling Mage on your Card of Calling, and then you're just going to go Resto Kiki. But the problem you've got against them is if they name the right thing, you have to go longer. If they don't name the right thing, or they don't have the right interactive pieces, you just kill them. But your first aim is just to stay alive against them, and once you manage that, then it's very easy to sort of, what's the phrase, to combo off, really. You just wait and then combo. So, like I say, you're more control than combo, whereas against Amulet, you're more combo than you are control. Jazzy Tron, it's a bit similar to humans. There used to be a much bigger issue when Lattice was legal, because you could just play this long game with them and then they'd go upside win, whereas now you play a long game with them and you go upside win. They were always better at that than you were, but now you're better at it than they are. So the creatures don't cause you a massive headache. You can block with Wall of Roots and blah blah blah. So yeah, the decks. That's what you need to be doing. You need to be looking at what tools you have and working out which are relevant in the matchup, and then sideboard out the little packages that don't work. So you board out some mana docks when you don't need them, or you side out some of the toolbox creatures that don't really do anything, or you side out the aggro plan, or you side out the combo plan, or it might be that, Chord of Calling isn't great against Stubborn Denial. It's not, so, and Wall of Roots doesn't particularly block a Gangler well, so let's cut that part of the deck, and oh look, we're just like a normal creature deck all of a sudden with very few spells, and Stubborn Denial actually looks really kind of stupid in this deck against us all of a sudden. The best it can hope for is a one mana for one mana exchange on a Path to Exile. You're quite happy to take that deal. You might not even, you don't want that to happen, but it's better than them countering a Chord of Calling for sure. So, just think about the ways that you can win and think about the ways you can lose. Think about what your deck needs to look like and sideboard out relatively. And I know really all I'm saying there is side out the bad cards and board in the good ones, but it's about role assessment, and the way you will pick that up is either read my primer, that's like a cheat sheet for that, but also just practice, understand the pace of the matches. Like I said against Storm, it's amazing how long that game can go once you get an Eidolon and a Giver of Runes, for example, and so that is actually a legit way of winning that matchup. Whereas against the Amulet, it's not really like that. You can't how do I phrase this? You can't just play a few control-y cards and just wait, because all they'll do is just make some land drops and make a 6-drop. So it's slightly different, and you get that experience from playing games. But that's the really cool thing about this deck, I think, is that you have very, it's kind of like a slow combo deck, a slow aggro deck, a bad control deck, and a bad mid-range deck. It's bad at everything, but it can do everything. And sometimes the bad combo deck is very good against a good aggro deck, and sometimes the bad mid-range deck, the bad aggro deck is good against the good control deck. It's the role assessment is just so key in this deck, and it's what makes it fun to play as well. Sideboarding is really quite fun with this deck. Rather than it being a massive headache like it is with other decks, it's actually really fun. It's like, ooh, I don't think I need this package. Let's just move that over there, and bring this in. And it's kind of like it's pretty fluid, and it's just quite fun. And playing the games, anything with Chord of Calling is usually a bit of a hoot, because you've got tools. Prime Speaker is just a great magic card. It's just really fun. And that's kind of it. I gave myself a little bullet point of what I wanted to talk about here. Mulligans. Okay, let's just do a little thing of mulligans. Sample hand. This is what we're going to do. So, if I was given this hand, it would be a mulligan. I think it's pretty obvious, but it doesn't have any 1-drops. The 2-drop doesn't really do anything until turn 3, and if it dies, your whole deck doesn't do anything until turn 4. It doesn't have any red mana for this. It's just a mulligan. So, play or draw. That's not good enough. However, you swap the Prime Speaker for Birds of Paradise, and things change quite drastically, because now you can go turn 1 Birds, turn 2 Stoneforge Mystic plus tapped land, but if they were an interactive deck, they could kill the birds, and you would still have a turn 2 play, and that's the difference between having a 1-drop and having a 4-drop. And again, it's kind of an obvious statement, but this hand is very, very keepable, very playable. You are only a red land away from killing them on turn 4. You represent a threat in Stoneforge Mystic. You can flicker the Stoneforge Mystic if you're getting really creative. So you have a way. The good thing about this hand is that you have a way to beat most things. You have a threat that generates value. You have some end step tricks. You have your combo. You have some ramp. Like, so what if they bolt the birds? They're going to have to try and kill the Stoneforge as well. And if they kill the Stoneforge, well, you've still got a piece of value out of that. So the control deck's going to have a problem against this, but you still might just kill someone on turn 4. So that's just a brilliant hand that you want to see a lot of. It's just giving me the same stuff, so, you know, swap to land for a goose, you're still going to keep it. Right. I mean, again, this is just so similar. We swapped to Stoneforge for Once Upon a Time, basically, and that's also fine. So you would keep all these. Okay, this hand had to analyze, and it's kind of close. This Once Upon a Time, let's just like have a look at the low end of our curve and think, okay, I have 4 lands and some 4 drops, so I have a bit of a mid game plan already. What do I need to hit with this to make the plan good? And the question is, well, the answer is, well, I don't think I'd particularly want a Giver of Runes here. I don't think I'd want a Spell Sky. You're not going to hit Sword of Fire and Ice or other Once Upon a Times. Corridor Monitor is pointless. Rallier isn't really that good. And these are too slow, really. You know, doing nothing turn 1, 2, 3 is... Sorry, turns 1 and 2, and then playing a really quite anemic 3-drop isn't where you want to be. So what this then becomes as well, if I hit my Birds of Paradise, Gilded Goose, Wall of Roots, or Stoneforge Mystic, I think that would be pretty reasonable. You would have something to do on curve. Specifically, I think that's much more reasonable on the play than it is on the draw. I think on the draw I'd mulligan this, but on the play, you've got 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Maybe class this Magus of the Moon as a way to win the game. 11 or 12 good hits for this, and I think that's just about enough. It's not great, but you will get a couple of draw steps. So on the play I would keep this, on the draw I wouldn't, but it's very, very close. It's quite an interesting hand. I think I do keep more hands than maybe I should, so I take that into account as well. But I quite like that on the play. Not like, just would keep. This hand's great. Again, it's very good against Thoughtseizes. It's very good against Lightning Bolt. It's very good against Fatal Push. It's not quite there from a against a combo deck. It's not going to quite get there, but maybe this Once Upon a Time can find you a card that you need. So keep that all day long. Sounds okay. You could turn 1 nothing, turn 2 Wall or Stoneforge, whatever you need, and then turn 3 might be that you're activating a Stoneforge. It might be that you're playing a Rallier. You're just hoping to draw into some mana here. But the good thing about this hand is that if you draw the 3rd land, Rallier can make it a 4th. So personally, I would run out the Plains first and not this, and then turn 2. If you'd drawn like Grove of the Burn Willows, that's the land that you would have played. You might even play Giver and just leave a tapped land, fetch land in play uncracked, and then so then at that point you're then forced to go turn 3 Wall of Roots, Bird of Paradise with Giver up. So it's this didn't run out great, but you can see that the hand has potential, and I think it's a keep, both on the play and probably on the draw. That hand's great. We've discussed hands like it, so I'll just move on. This hand, again, this one's kind of close, but the double Chord of Colony is an issue in this hand. You don't really... Yeah, Gilded Goose into Stoneforge is decent. You then want to draw a fetch land for Rallier and then pick it back up again, so you'd have like 4 lands and 3 creatures, and then you're off to the races. So turn 1 Goose, turn 2 Stoneforge, turn 3 Rallier, and by doing turn 3 Rallier and getting the fetch land back, you would have your fetch land plus your Goose available, so you could then put your Batterskull or Sword of Fire and Ice into play. So that's actually a really nice curve. And it's worth noting that then the Goose still taps to Chord of Calling for a mana, even without food. So that hand's pretty good. Fine again. Once Upon a Time is just like, it just acts as everything that you might need. You know, if you went turn 1 Goose, turn 2 fetch land, Renegade Rallier, pick up the land, it's just pretty good. You just like up to 3 mana, so up to 4 mana on turn 3, which will let you activate your Goose to make your mana for the Kiki, or you could card up a Spell Sky or something. You've got options. And hopefully what you're seeing is that a lot of these hands are very keepable, and that's the beauty of this deck as well, is that Once Upon a Time card, the fact that you can combo with Resto, Kiki, Prime Speaker, card, you know, there's just a lot of redundancies, plenty of 1-drops and 2-drops, so it is a very consistent deck. You know, turn 1 Goose, well, turn 1 Once Upon a Time plus Goose, turn 2 you might be playing Night of Autumn or something you found off Once Upon a Time. If you, as an example, if you found a Wall of Roots or a Bird's Paradise, Giver of Runes, Spell Sky, you would play that on 2, and then on 3 you would have the mana for Prime Speaker. And that's a great hand. Great hand. Turn 1 Burst, turn 2 Night, turn 3 Prime Speaker. Gonna win. Some of the time. It's got enough about it, you know, even the Night's a bit of interaction or life total or blocking or disenchanting. So, you know, just doesn't flat lose to a lot of decks and has a turn 4 kill. So specifically on the player, turn 4 kill is pretty good in Modern. You know, even Tron won't hit Karn on 3 every single game, and Storm won't kill you on 3 every single game. It will on a lot of games, but not every single game. So even the nut, how do I put this? So even your bad matchups like Storm, you can steal a game occasionally, and your matchups like Tron, they have to have the nuts to stop you. So often Tron's best draw beats your best draw, but your average draw beats their average draw, and you actually have your average and best draw more frequently than they do. So it's actually really quite balanced as a matchup. Okay, so this one's quite interesting because Double Forest isn't great for a start, with a hand that's blue-white. So the Stomping Ground obviously doesn't cast any of these. This could get Sacred Foundry and play Giver of Runes, but this is a blank, and this isn't castable. So I think this is a mulligan. So let's say we mulligan and we're offered this. Well, you can actually cast the Stoneforge on curve. So I actually would keep this on 6, and I would tuck the Prime Speaker, because this is going to go get you a tapped Sacred Foundry. Then you're going to play turn 2 Stoneforge, and then turn 3 activate Stoneforge, turn 4 Resto Angel, turn 5 Kiki, hopefully. And depending on the matchup and what you draw and what they do, it may or may not be good enough. But actually, it's pretty reasonable. A turn 3 Batterskull is pretty reasonable against certain decks, and you have a chance of doing that here. So you would probably keep it. This is a keep because this could be a mana dock, and if it's not, if it was a Giver of Runes, you'd be pretty happy. Turn 1 Giver, turn 2 Stoneforge, and even if it's not, you still have this Stoneforge. So you've got a lot of hits with this that are really good, and you already have a reasonable hand. So I keep that. This is a keep as well because this is very likely to find one of your other 19 lands, and if it doesn't, you've just dug 5 cards deeper to find it. So you would hope that finds a land. Also, it would be much better if you untapped with a Bird's Paradise, but you won't always do that. So, in short, what you're looking for is something to do on turns 1 or 2 that actually impact the board or matter, which basically accounts for maybe this list of cards. You need the right amount of lands. You typically don't want to be playing on 1, but like 1 Birds and Once Upon a Time is probably okay. You don't particularly want 5. But you need some lands. You need one of these 16 cards-ish. You could probably class these as something that you're quite happy to have in your opener as well. And then you want to be honest, you could keep a hand that has none of these and just hope to draw into it, because there's a big chunk of them. There's 20 cards towards the end game, 19 early game cards. And what I always say is, if the hand has the top end and just needs some ramp, you have to draw that ramp on turn 1 or 2. And if you're on the play, you only get a 1 draw step there. So if you have to draw your ramp on turn 1 or 2, you have 1 draw step to find it. If you already have all your ramp and you need a top end, you're going to spend your first turn or 2, or maybe even third turn, because of Stoneforge, playing your early threats. And if that's what you're doing, if you're spending 3 turns setting up rather than 3 turns setting up, then you have until the 4th turn to find your threat, and that gives you 3 draw steps on the play and 4 draw steps on the draw. And so I would always keep a hand that was like, let's throw an example, 3 lands, Giver of Runes, Birds, Goose, Spellskite. I don't know. Like, Birds, Goose, Night of Autumn, right? You can't class Night of Autumn as a threat. You don't know if it's going to be particularly useful interactively, but you just had 2 Given Runes, or Goose, you have Night, you have 3 lands, and what else did I say? I know, Wall of Roots. Like, let's just make the lands a bit uglier. No, we need a white land. So let's make sure we can actually cast our cards. But as a 7 there, I'd snap keep that, knowing that if I never draw one of these, then I'm going to lose. But actually, I could go turn 1, probably turn 1, Giver of Runes. Maybe not actually. No, I'd probably lead on the Goose, because it's the card I would prefer to die to interaction. So lead on the Goose, see if it gets bolted and pushed. If it doesn't, I can fetch a white land and play Giver of Runes, and then turn 3 I might play the Knight or the Wall, or I might have drawn into something. So the hand's pretty great. So it's much better to keep a hand that's low curving than it is high curving, and that's what you're looking for. You're looking for something to do early, which is like these 19 cards, and you're looking for some lands, and then this should all fall into place afterwards. If the hand has got like 2 cards and a Kiki-Jiki, it's 99% of the time a mulligan. So I don't really see, I don't know, would you keep this? Turn 1 Birds, turn 2 Wall of Roots, turn 3 you can hope you've drawn a land and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, card for 6. That's this is the only spot where I keep 2 cards Kiki-Jiki, because if you rip a land, you can card up Corridor Monitor, and then you can untap and play Kiki. So you have turn 1 Birds, turn 2 Wall of Roots, turn 3 card, turn 4 kill. So you have 4 draw steps to try and find a land. But the only way that hand ever wins is if the bird and wall stays in play, and if they don't, you've lost. So generally speaking, if you have a lot of top end, you don't want to be playing. You want to just give it up. That's about all I want to ramble on about. That's taken a lot longer than I thought. I thought this was going to be like a 15-20 minute video, but I've just rambled on and on and on. I think all there is left to say is find me on YouTube, Davius Minimus, Twitch, Davius Minimus, Discord, Davius Minimus. You get the idea. Reddit, Davius Minimus. Test the deck, play it some, get the primer that I've done, and enjoy. It's just fun. That's why I'm playing Magic. But maybe I should have done this at the start of the video, but I started out without a lot of this deck. I couldn't afford to buy all the cards, all the mana, for example, like the Misty Rainforest and a few other little bits. And I've picked up cards that I might or might not use, like Skoos cost a few bucks, and Spellskite and whatever else. So I've picked up things as I've gone along, and still managed to get 60 ticks, a treasure chest, some play points that I didn't have when I started. So I've gone infinite with this. My game history, I've got 2 5-0s in the last couple of weeks. Constructed rating of 1800. Playing this deck for quite some time, and pretty good results mostly. haven't thrown out a 2-3 for a long time, so I'm always getting my money back when I play, and sometimes I'm going better than that. So I think the deck's really pretty good. Obviously, the reason I'm doing all these videos is because I believe the deck is good, but also because I want more people to play it, because the more people that play it, the more people will improve it, because there is room for improvement, as there always is. And the meta keeps changing, and sometimes I'm a little slow to changes. I just keep jamming stuff and thinking, okay, what's going wrong? But it takes a while sometimes to spot what's going wrong, or how you should construct your deck. So, I just want more eyes on it and more people playing it, and the more that play it, the better it'll get, and that's a good thing. And here's my I like to throw this out semi regularly. When Summer Bloom got banned in Modern, I was the first person to 5-0 with the post ban amulet list. So the first person to play Sakura Tribe Scouts and whatever else. So yeah, like I have experience of turning dead decks into playable decks, and look at where the deck is now. Look at how this has developed since it started with its first 5-0. And that wouldn't have happened if people didn't actually try and play it. Like, I couldn't have got the deck to where it is now. All I could do was play a deck that I believed was good and try and get some limelight for it. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do now, but with something different. So my first list with Amulet was garbage. It's kind of laughable. I was trying to find it then, but yeah, it was just disgusting. I think this was it. Could have been. Yeah, this is it. This is the awful piece of work that I put together. But so I'll explain a little bit about this. When we lost Summer Bloom, I felt like we needed to speed the deck up to try and beat the decks that were too fast. There's decks out there. There was Infect Twin. I can't remember exactly what else, but like I needed to try and speed up the deck to try and make up for the loss of Summer Bloom, and I settled on 3 Sakura Tribe Scouts, 2 Simian Spirit Guides, a Gemstone Caverns. I added a Spell Pierce instead of there used to be a second Pact Negation in the old Summer Bloom lists. I thought, oh, Spell Pierce costs less, that'll be good. In this particular league, I ran a Hornet Queen because my previous league I'd lost to Affinity and I wanted a way to try and beat that. Hive Mind used to be a 2-of, I trimmed it to 1. Like, the deck's a real mess. I'm running Kessig Wolfrun instead of Sunhome because I believed that was a good way to go. But this was the first thing that 5-0'd, and it was the first one that got the deck back being played by people who liked to play the deck, and then it developed. And you can't take a deck that doesn't exist, or that exists very marginally, and make it a brilliant working deck just by yourself. You just need some help, and that's what I'm hoping happens with this Vannifar deck. So thank you for listening to me rant, and please do get in touch if you have any questions or any suggestions or any feedback from testing or any feedback on the primer or on this video or just anything. I like talking about Magic, as you can probably tell, so send me messages, Davius Minimus, on every platform. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I will probably stream a league soon, so hang about if you fancy watching some of that. Right, bye for now. Cheers, bye.